This is the story of a man who stood trial, not for himself, but for millions of others who would never even know his name. It's a tale of courage, defiance, and a game-changing moment in world history that has largely been forgotten. You're not going to want to miss this. Meet Franz Jägerstätter, a simple Austrian farmer born in 1907 in the small village of St. Radegrund. He was an ordinary man living an extraordinary life, but the path he was destined to walk would ultimately lead him to an unthinkable court trial and a legacy that continues to inspire those who seek justice and peace. Our story begins during World War II, when Adolf Hitler rose to power and the Nazi regime started its campaign of conquest and genocide. The world was plunged into chaos. Millions of men were drafted or coerced into the Nazi military machine to fight in a war that claimed the lives of an estimated 70 to 85 million people. Of course, this was no ordinary war. It was a war designed to eradicate entire populations, break nations, and suppress freedom. But within this dark chapter of history, there were individuals, bright sparks of humanity, who openly defied the horror. Franz Jägerstätter was one of them. In the early years of the war, Jägerstätter, a Catholic, began to suspect that the Nazi agenda was deeply at odds with his religious faith and personal moral code. Through his own readings and reflections, he became convinced that participation in the war effort would make him complicit in atrocities. While many others resigned themselves to the situation, either out of fear, ignorance, or survival instinct, Franz made his choice clear. He would not serve. Not for the army, not for Hitler, not for anyone. What makes this story stand out is what happened next. Jägerstätter's decision was not taken lightly. He was urged by friends, family, and even church officials to reconsider. People told him, "You're a farmer, you have a wife and 3 young daughters. Surely, you're not responsible for the whole Nazi war effort." People warned him that refusing to serve would likely result in his arrest and execution. Despite knowing the risks, Franz remained steadfast. In February of 1943, Franz was officially drafted. He refused to comply, and as he had anticipated, he was arrested by the Gestapo. His trial was held on July 6, 1943, in a military court. There, faced with high-ranking Nazi officials, he had the opportunity to save his own life by agreeing to serve as a medic instead of a soldier. Yet, even this compromise, ethically less fraught, was something Franz could not accept. In his view, any act of cooperation with the Nazi regime made him complicit in its crimes. Ultimately, Franz was sentenced to death for undermining military morale. On August 9, 1943, he was executed by guillotine. His body was buried in an unmarked grave, his story nearly erased from history. But here's where the twist comes in. Franz Jägerstätter was officially recognized by the Catholic Church decades later as a martyr for his faith. Today, he is celebrated not as a man defeated, but as a symbol of resistance, moral conviction, and the courage to stand against tyranny, even when the odds are entirely against you. This poignant story challenges us even now, in the modern world. What would you have done in Franz's shoes? Could you have risked everything for what you believe to be right? It's a question that reminds us all of the human capacity for courage and conscience, even in the darkest hours of history.